Hi, I'm the Sad Pan, and this is the third episode of my series, I Read This, Should You?, where I give you a review on something that I've read, such as a book, a manga, or a web novel, and you decide whether or not to read it based on the score I give. Of course, we'll only touch on the first 100 chapters or so, because I don't want to spoil everything for you. This episode is going to be on Lucifer's Descendant System by Zane. In short, it's about our main character, Noah Stern, who is blessed with a very, very weak blessing. Sub-F rank. We'll go over ranks of systems and stuff when we get to setting, which is going to be my next topic. But it turns out that this very weak blessing actually turns into inheritance of power, so to speak, from Lucifer himself. I'll go over setting now. So, this story takes place in a modern fantasy world where modern stuff exists like cities and cars and all this stuff, but it's also a fantasy world with magic and blessings from gods. And in this world, if you are lucky and devoted enough, you could be blessed with a system from your god of choice. So you have to be a devout follower. That's not always the case, but if you're a devout follower and you're lucky and loved by your god, you may be blessed with a system. Now, these blessings have ranks from the lowest of F to the highest of S. Most people, well, not most people, a lot of people in this world get their blessings, like when you are blessed, you are usually blessed at 16. Now, our main character, Noah Stern, was blessed with a sub-F rank, so he's barely more powerful than a regular person. His blessing, all anyone knows what it does, is it makes him slightly better looking than everyone else. That's it. That's all his system does. And that's what everyone thinks, at least. People without blessings are considered useless nobodies, essentially. You can't become rich or anything if you don't have a blessing. I mean, you can. It's just super hard. And the higher rank blessing you get, the more famous you will just become out of nowhere. And I'll explain a little bit. One of the first things that we're introduced to is our main character talks about a B rank blessing. Now, when you are blessed with a B rank, you're considered loved by your god, and you have the ability to become a B rank adventurer or hunter. I don't remember exactly what they call it in this, but you have the capability of becoming a B rank, which not everyone has the capability of. When in this world, if you have let's say a D rank blessing, you cannot get stronger than a D rank. There is no way to do so. Once you get to D rank, that's it. Like, sometimes you may be able to fight above your rank, but that's only if you have skills. Otherwise, you're going to be a D rank forever. You can't upgrade your systems, you can't get better blessings, you can unlock more skills, but that doesn't change your ranking. Noah gets a sub-F rank, like I said before, and the sub-F rank actually turns out to be a descendant system from Lucifer himself. So when he's blessed at 16, when he's not blessed at 16, actually, when the god that his family have been devoted to for their entire lives or whatever, he's not blessed at 16. He's unlucky and not blessed. But eventually, he gets a little pop-up, because that's how it's just like a system in a video game. It's like pop-up right in front of your face. He gets a pop-up that says something along the lines of, you are forgotten by the ones you love, just like I was. If you go through a bunch of trials and tribulations like I had to, I will give you the power to, I will just give you my power, essentially. And so he's like, well, I don't have a blessing, and if I don't have a blessing, I can't help my family, because in this world, if you don't have a blessing, it's really hard to get high-paying jobs and money. And he wants to help his sister. She's sick, and he wants to get her out of the hospital, and the treatment costs a shit ton of money. So what he's doing now as an F-rank adventurer is going into fortresses. Now, in this world, there are something called fortresses. It's essentially dungeons. They're just above ground instead of below ground, even though they are magic. So you go into these fortresses, and they're essentially portals to another world. So no one knows why it's like this, but it just is like this. It's essentially one day fortresses started appearing and people started getting blessed. That's how it goes. And these trials and tribulations that our main character Noah has to go through is he has to go into these dungeons and survive, or these fortresses and survive without any power. Now, I said before, he's only barely stronger than a regular person, so he's not even strong enough to fight an F rank that has like a strength enhancement. He's not strong enough. The only thing his blessing does right now in the beginning of the story is make him slightly better looking than like everyone else. Like, and it's not even like a huge amount. He just is like pretty. And people think that because he's just prettier than everyone else, that his god is some kind of like gigolo god that, you know, just gave him better looks so he can like become like a prostitute essentially. And that's what people think. But it turns out that after he goes through, like, I think it's a couple years, like 2 years of like fortresses and going in and not dying is the big thing. You can't go in and die. He always goes in, he's always comes out unharmed, even if the fortress doesn't get completed, which is you have to go in and you have to fight like the last boss, and then it'll close the fortress. Even if it's not finished, he still like gets like the check mark on the quest. So in the story begins, he's like on his last fortress before he gets like his upgrade in his system. Now, like I said before, systems or blessings, you can't upgrade them in this world. There's no such thing. If you have an F rank blessing, that will be an F rank blessing forever. It's never been heard of that someone has an F rank blessing and then gets blessed again. I mean, I think that they talk about that a little bit. It's like one time ever or something like that, that it like you get like blessed again. But his blessing actually is an inheritance of power, where he has the ability to level up and gain XP and unlock new skills. And usually in this world, when you're blessed, you only get like 1 or 2 skills. 3 skills if you're super lucky, and if you have like a A or B or A or S rank blessing, you might get 4 or 5 skills. But Noah gets a skill where he can like summon fire, which is a cool skill. But the skill is super strong because what it does is it costs mana to use, and it's hellfire. It costs mana to use, but it hurts everyone differently based on sin, because Lucifer in the lore was like the king of hell, and he like made people pay for their sins essentially. And so this fire doesn't affect your body, it affects your soul. So that's why if you're a super evil person and you get hit with this fire, it'll hurt like 1,000,000 times worse than if you were just a regular guy that doesn't commit like sin. Like if you're just like a person like me or you, where sure we like might lie or something like that, but it would affect us, it would hurt, but it wouldn't be as bad as if you were like a mass murderer where you just go out and kill people for fun. Then yeah, it would be like the worst kind of pain. It would be like getting your flesh stripped. Like that's one of the things they talk about in this story, is how bad it hurts. Even the monsters, which are essentially like products of sin, because they're quote unquote evil, they suffer crazy pain from it. He gets a couple other abilities, like he can teleport, he can summon imps later, and all this stuff is really cool. And I think it's really awesome that that happens. But the gripe I have, the issue I have with the story is at a certain point, it just becomes autonomous, like XP gain, which is cool, and I like the idea, but I would like it more if our main character would go out and do more stuff. Like later on, he uses the imps as like an XP farm for people that don't have blessings or people that have really weak blessings, because these imps are pretty strong, and it turns out they have other abilities, like they can absorb his like fire that he makes, and then they can make it so it's the same kind of fire, same kind of pain. And like he can teleport at some point, going through something called hell tunnels. It looks like teleportation to everyone else, but it's actually him going into hell and then coming out of hell in a different location. So it's not teleportation at all. It's him going like around, essentially. It's not point A, point B. It's point A, point B, point C. And it's so fast that it's like teleportation. But people, like, people with strong blessings later on in the story they can react, because teleportation is usually instantaneous, but they have time to react. Like, because it's like flashes of red whenever he teleports, because it's like fire, like it's opening a pit, like opening a portal to hell, essentially. So it's a big like light, and that's one of the things that they go through a lot in this story. But other than that, Noah, I like his attitude towards everyone, because no one likes him because he has an Ephraim blessing. I think he has like one friend that likes him, but it turns out that that friend doesn't even have a blessing. So no wonder, like, he's just some son of a rich aristocrat, essentially, and he doesn't have a blessing, didn't get blessed. It sucks. But, you know, he's still his friend. They like hang out all the time together and that kind of stuff. And I like him as a character. I think he's really fun, and I think he's very understandable. Like, he does want a blessing, which we find out later on in the story that's something that he does want, but it's just he can't get one, and it's unfortunate. But Noah, I like his attitude towards everyone, because he doesn't think that if you look at him and you're like, well, you're nobody because you have an Ephraim blessing, so obviously I'm not going to talk to you or worry about you or even try to help you. Then when you're in trouble, when you need help, and because his blessing is stronger than an Ephraim later on in the story, he's not going to help you. Why would he do that? Why would he put his life on the line to try to save you when your life wouldn't be put on the line to save him? And when people find out how strong he is, they get really mad. It's like, oh, why didn't you kill the boss when you could have killed the boss? Why didn't you do this when you could have done that? And his response is, why should I help you? Why should I put my life on the line? And it's really smart, because in this world, like, death is scary. Like, these fortresses, they're not like fun excursions and like going into a dungeon and having a good time killing monsters and getting strong. No, these are scary things. Like, one of the things that they talk about in these fortresses is that the first trip into a fortress is like a rebirth, essentially, because of how different the people come out of the fortress. Like, what he's doing in one of the first chapters of the story, he's riding a bus full of like people that are laughing, and they just got their blessing, and some of them even have like a C rank blessing, and they're all like, oh, I'm so strong, I'm gonna be so strong. And it's like, oh man, these dungeons are gonna be so easy, these fortresses are gonna be the easiest thing ever. And he's sitting in his seat because he's been through hundreds of fortresses. He knows that these people are going to be very quiet on the way back. Like, he talks about the adults that are on the bus to the fortress. They're quiet. They are focused, and they are, like, some of them are even scared, because they know that even if it's a D rank fortress or an F rank fortress, these are still life or death situations. So, like, in the first in the first couple chapters, there's multiple deaths of like 16-year-old people that think that they are hot shit because they just get blessed. Like, they don't understand how to manage their mana, how to use all of their resources, how to not use their resources when they don't have to. Like, some of these kids are using like all of their abilities right off the bat on these like weak entities, like weak rats, like dungeon rats. Like, they're bigger than normal rats, but they're just rats. Like, they can tear out your flesh because rats can do that. But they're wasting like very powerful abilities instead of like using their swords or bows or whatever to try to kill them, because they're like, oh, this is going to be easy. But then they find out that that's only like the first couple, and there's going to be like 1,000 more. You have to allocate resources, and they don't know that. So there's like multiple deaths. This story isn't for the light of heart. It's pretty dark. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of like torture, I guess, people that are just in pain, screaming, because of course his power is to burn the soul. So when he hits a person that is trying to kill him, because there's a lot of like person versus person in this story, where he has to fight for his life against these people that think they're way stronger than him. And when he hits them with this fire, or when he teleports around and stuff, it's very scary for them, and it's very painful. Like, one of the things that is described repeatedly in this story is screaming. People screaming because of the pain that they're in. And it's one of the things that I think brings like the most chills to me, is like how dangerous this world is and how it's not like for kids. Like the world isn't for like kids. Like these 16-year-olds, these 17, 18-year-olds, they don't understand what it's like. And I really like that about the story. It's that it's realistic, because in real life, if fortresses just started appearing out of nowhere and people started getting blessed and we had to go in and fight monsters, of course there's going to be tons of people that are like, oh, this is just like a video game, or oh, this is just like a movie, oh my goodness, I'm going to be so powerful. And then they're going to go in and die because they don't understand that it's not like a movie. In movies, everything's scripted. The good guys always win. No, this is real life. In real life, scary stuff happens and you can't control all of it. Like, you can get ambushed by monsters that are actually smart, which is something that happens. Like, these monsters, they're not dumb. Like, in movies, a lot of time, the creature is just some mindless creature that's like, oh, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to eat you. But it's not a joke. They don't mess around in this. Like, a lot of them are smart, and, like, the higher in the dungeons you go, the more sentient they become. So not only are they smart, but they're, like, it's to the point where they will run away if they know that your party is too strong. They will run away and hide, or they'll run away to, like, their main camp and tell them so they can prepare for you. It's crazy, and I really like that about the story. I really like Noah's reaction to all that, because, like, later on, this is in the first 100 chapters or so, it turns out that these fortresses aren't just like manifestations of like manna or anything. These fortresses are like portals to like another world, and it turns out that other creatures are also able to be blessed. Like, one of these, there's a goblin. Like, they go into a fortress, and there's a goblin. It's like a goblin fortress, which is one of like the scarier ones. It's because goblins, what's great about what makes them powerful is their numbers, and what makes them scary is that they know when to run, they know when to hide, and they know when to go and get reinforcements. They know these things. And in this story, he's like, he goes off on his own because he gets a different mission than everyone else does, which is just to clear the fortress. He has to go like do a shrine and get like his wings, because just like Lucifer in the lore, Lucifer had to do trials and tribulations to get his wings, which is what he has to do, because he's getting all of Lucifer's power, but he has to go through trials and tribulations to do so. And to get his wings, he has to go and find and destroy a shrine to a god in a fortress. And he's like, well, I've never heard of that. No one's ever heard of that. That's never been noticed by anything. And it turns out one of these goblins, like, when it realizes that it's too dangerous, it books it. It doesn't go the direction that he thinks it's going to go, which is towards the stronghold of the goblins. No, he goes like off into the forest, and he's like, why would he do that? And he follows them, and it turns out that this goblin is going to goes prays for a blessing to try to like fend off these invaders. Because on the flip side, these goblins are being invaded by the people, which is scary. And to the goblin, it's like, I don't know what we did to deserve this, I don't know why why we have to die. So he goes and gets a blessing and gets blessed. And obviously our main character fights it, kills it, gets a bunch of extra XP and stuff, and destroys the shrine because that was his goal. But then he like thinks about, oh, well, if this is the case for this fortress, what about every other fortress? Which leads on to more fun stuff like that. And honestly, I really just like the story. And I would probably give this one an 8. Yeah, probably an 8. It's on the same level as Chrysalis for me. The only issues I have are really just not pacing as in the pacing in the story. I'm saying pacing as in chapter releases. It's pretty inconsistent. I think it's been like 20 days or so as I record this video since the last chapter came out, which I am upset because I really like the story and I really wish more chapters would come out, but yeah, it is what it is. But it's very consistent when it comes to in-story, character growth. Noah, the way he changes as a person is very cool. Honestly, it's just definitely worth your read. So I would say give it an 8, and I would say go read it. And if you like my content, like and subscribe and leave a comment. And if you don't like my content, please leave a comment and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I would like to change, and I would like to get to 10 subscribers. So let's get it.